Okay, and I have 3 bills, and I will pass the baton. Okay, the first bill is SB 403, Community Schools. Members, I'm presenting SB 403, the California Community Schools Act. Community schools are a strategy for organizing the resources of the community around student success. And using schools as hubs, community school strategy foster intentional collaboration and alignment among school districts, state, county, city governments, community-based organizations, nonprofits, higher ed institutions, and businesses. We know that poverty creates an opportunity gap that impedes children from succeeding in school. Hunger, homelessness, health issues, and a lack of access to support and enrichment activities inhibit learning. Community school strategies bring the typically fragmented supports and services found in the community into our schools, creating cohesive partnerships that promote the overall well-being of children and their families to support student success. Community schools are a strategy, not a program. They empower local communities and build on the strengths and needs unique to each community. We currently have examples of community schools in districts including Oakland, San Francisco, Redwood City, Los Angeles, Pasadena, and Ontario, Montclair. In recent years, research-based best practices have emerged from the national movement to create focused approaches to cross-agency collaboration. This strategy has successfully transformed schools and communities in areas as diverse as Portland, Oregon, and Tulsa, Oklahoma. The community school strategy is supported by both the National League of Cities and the National School Boards Association. SB 403, which is modeled on the Federal Full Services Community Schools Program, would provide grants in an unspecified amount to be awarded by the state superintendent to support LEAs, or the local education agencies, in planning and implementing California community schools. Under the bill, local LEAs, local educational communities, and community partners would be authorized to form consortia with an integrated focus on academics, health and social services, youth and community development, and parent and community engagement. By placing a framework in the education code to promote the expansion of community schools and cross-agency collaboration, SB 403 provides an operating model to align resources, create more effective use of limited public and private funds, and leverage the new state education priorities and local control funding formula and accountability plans. In summary, SB 403 will incentivize cross-agency collaboration, increase community alignment of resources, and promote a whole child perspective that recognizes the importance of a child's health and safety, social, emotional development, and community relationships to his or her educational success. And I have witnesses in support.
Thank you.
Jill.
I'm Jill Wins. I'm a member of the San Francisco Board of Education. This is my 23rd year on the Board of Education. And I'm a past president of CSBA and currently a member of their board of directors. So in San Francisco, we have a long history of school-based partnerships, which we think have evolved into a community school strategy. We are the only school district in the country that used a community school strategy as one of the core components of our school improvement grant program. So we used federal SIG dollars that came to us under No Child Left Behind that were supposed to be focused on the lowest performing schools. And in every one of our 9 SIG schools, we had a community school coordinator. We also have a huge array of community resources, which many communities have. We may be a bit richer than others in that, including over 300 community-based organizations that work in public schools, in school-based programs in San Francisco. So when I was president of CSBA in 2012, I made community schools my focus, where the state had a focus then. Senator Hancock went with us to New York to do a trip to look at community schools. And we kept on asking ourselves the question, what can the state do to help us? In our 6 schools in San Francisco, you had community school coordinators. Now we've lost that money. Many of those schools have lost those coordinators. Some of them have sort of migrated into our Promised Neighborhood program. But I'm here to tell you that what we have found is that having coordination and facilitation and having somebody whose job it is to help schools work with other agencies, both public and private, seems to be the key. So I think that this is what we can do to help. We asked that question, what's the state's role? The state, and we were asking that, as you know, during the time of huge cuts to education when there were no resources to do anything. But I think this is what can help. We are in support of this bill. We think it will send the message that the state understands that there is value in our trying to deepen and expand our ability to work across agencies and to work together. And I think this is beginning to answer that question, especially if we focus these resources and our attention on helping schools and California community schools, as they're called here, that is partnerships and consortia, to have facilitation and to focus on planning, because it's the glue that holds together these kinds of programs. It's not so much the programmatic aspects as the help to actually do those things. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Deanna Niebuhr, the Senior Director of our Community Schools Initiatives at the Partnership for Children and Youth. And we're a nonprofit intermediary promoting this kind of what I call really a good governance strategy at the local level to align resources behind these shared goals and especially student success. A big part of our work has been to look back at the Healthy Start program and that seed funding that came out in the early 90s and what happened with that funding in a deep way to understand what worked and what didn't work. And based on that, I would encourage us as a state to think about the fact that we have school districts who, with a little bit of seed funding, built these kinds of initiatives that still kind of fly under the radar today, but are doing this kind of work, getting for the existing resources that they have on the ground, getting high impact for both students and families and good outcomes. But what I will say is we're in support of this bill. I think that California should use its experience that it has to further this approach and encourage other school districts to engage their local partners to work in this way. I would want to emphasize that, like what Jill just said, a big part of this work is not, the end goal is to get all of these services and programs in place to meet the needs of the whole child. But if you lift up the hood and look at what's happening there, how is this working? The work really is to build an infrastructure so that these collaboratives can do good needs assessments, do good asset mapping, figure out what you need, what you have, and make these existing resources work for the community. So that's one thing. And then also, in that building that infrastructure, creating a way that that collaborative can do continuous improvement and keep building on its lessons learned. So those two very important ways of behaving or ways of working really can be only built if you have some like startup funding or a real intentionality. So we would encourage, in thinking about investing in community school work, to focus on that need for planning, that very careful planning and infrastructure building that happens at the front end, and not so much investing in those programs that you are trying to build the infrastructure to create and then test and make sure you're always improving. Thank you.
Good morning, Ron Rapp with the California Federation of Teachers. I'm speaking in support of SB 403. I want to first thank Senator Liu for authoring this bill. We think it's an extremely important piece of legislation. And for those of you who may not know, Senator Liu has been an advocate for community schools, not only in California, but nationally, and recognized as such. Research is clear that students are most successful when their physical and social and emotional needs are addressed and when parents and communities take an active role in supporting them. Poverty, hunger, homelessness, and the lack of adequate health care are issues that face more and more of our young people today and have a significant negative impact upon student learning. Community schools build community partnerships among educators, parents, schools, districts, businesses, social services, and other nonprofit organizations to coordinate the services students need to be academically successful and to develop into contributing members of their community. Community schools provide an array of services for children, both on-site and off-site, including health care, mental health, social services, and extended learning opportunities. Accessibility to these critical services is especially important for students living in low-income communities. In addition, the partnerships formed through community schools encourage the coordination of federal, state, and local resources, thus leveraging the resources available to students in more effective and efficient ways over time. These partnerships assist in breaking down the funding silos that currently exist between agencies at the local level and encourage them to work together to put children at the center of the work that they do. Finally, the community schools model is aligned with the California Local Control Funding Formula and a Local Control Accountability Plan and assists locals in achieving many of the 8 state priorities, including improving student achievement, parental engagement, student engagement, Common Core implementation, and school climate. And it is for these reasons that CFT respectfully requests an aye vote on SB 403. Thank you.
Madam Chair and members, Erin Evans-Budum on behalf of the California Alliance of Boys and Girls Clubs. We'd like to thank Senator Liu for her leadership on this effort, and we look forward to continued work. We support this bill. Thank you.
Good morning, Madam Chair, members. Deborah Brown with Children Now and Strong Support. Thank you.
Good morning, Khadija Alam Javed with the Advancement Project and Strong Support. And Madam Chair, we thank you for your leadership on this issue.
Good morning, Carol Kosovar with the California State PTA, also in very strong support.
Laura Fair with Public Counsel and strong support.
Lonnie.
This great array of support. Are there speakers in opposition to the bill? Are there others in support? Okay. There is no opposition. The bill has been moved. Senator Pan.
I just want to thank Senator Liu for this bill. I did want to speak just briefly in support of this because of made reference to Sac City Unified School District, which is, of course, in my district. But not only that, in my prior life, before I got in the legislature, I partnered with the school district as a pediatrician to actually help them get a federal grant that we were able to partner to help establish actually not only a clinic to help out children with developmental delay or behavioral issues, but also then to collaborate with the school nurses and psychologists to help out children who are having challenges in school because of mental health and other types of issues. So this is really a very important model. I've seen it firsthand on the very front lines, and I really appreciate your leadership in keeping this moving forward. And
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Yeah, I also just want to commend Senator Liu for doing this. I remember our trip to New York, but not only that, we've seen it in districts across the state. I represent Oakland, that's made that a strategy for their schools. Berkeley, in which they are trying to close the achievement gap by 2020 using this strategy. I know that when I was mayor, we were able to get a federally funded health clinic in our high school, and that, I think, is key to so much. As the school nurses said, they come in for a hangnail, and then you find out what's really going on. And it's a real entree to all kinds of services for kids. So this is just a very important step forward in our piece of infrastructure, I think. And Senator Liu, if there is an opportunity as the bill moves along, I would be very grateful to be added as a co-author.
Thank you. Yeah. Okay.
Any other comments? Is motion on the bill? Moved by Senator Pan. Please read the roll.
Do pass to appropriations. Lou?
Aye.
Lou, I. Runner? Block? Block, I. Hancock?
Aye.
Hancock, I. Leyva? Mendoza? Monning? Monning, I. Pan? Pan, I. Vidak. 5-0.
That bill is on call.
Thank you. My next bill is SB 527. Thank you. It's regarding the Safe Neighborhoods and School Fund Education Grant Program. The Safe Neighborhoods and Schools Act was approved by voters as Proposition 47 in November 2014. The act requires that 25% of the funds saved by the state under the initiative to be dispersed by the Department of Education to administer a grant program to improve outcomes for K-12 students by reducing truancy and supporting students who are at risk of dropping out of schools or who are victims of crime. SB 527 provides additional specificity regarding the awarding of the Safe Neighborhoods and Schools Grant. The bill targets the funding of the grants toward LEAs who have developed 3-year plans in their local control accountability plans to establish research-based school-wide strategies addressing social, emotional, and behavioral issues. These include approaches such as school-wide positive behavior interventions and supports, restorative practices, community school strategies, school-based mental health programs, and trauma-informed practices. These approaches have demonstrated strong educational outcomes, including increased attendance and achievement, particularly for pupils of color and other at-risk populations. These programs and practices have shown positive impacts on school climate and culture, as well as reduction in dropouts, truancy, and chronic absences. LEAs with high percentages of unduplicated counted students would be prioritized for funding. Positive school climate is directly related to academic achievement. State priorities and local control accountability plans includes focus on improving school climate, measured in part by suspension and expulsion rates. Students have shown that one suspension greatly increases the likelihood that a student will drop out and will become involved in the juvenile justice system. Removing students from school through disciplinary exclusion also increases the risk that they will become victims of violent crime. SB 527 requires a data collection process to track the effectiveness of the use of funds and provisions that tie the effort to local control accountability plans. The bill also encourages local cross-agency partnerships with nonprofit social service providers and community-based organizations. This bill will help schools implement research-based approaches to help break the school-to-prison pipeline and support schools and staff in ensuring positive conditions for learning. The practices funded by these grants can serve as models for effective implementation and prove data and demonstration sites that can spread these best practices across California. I have witnesses in support.
Thank you, Senator. My name is Laura Fair. I'm the statewide Education Rights Director for Public Counsel. We are the largest pro bono law firm in the nation with offices in Berkeley and Los Angeles, and we represent thousands of the state's most vulnerable youth each year. We see firsthand what happens when schools do not invest in a strong plan for helping students struggling with trauma and mental health issues. Too many of the young people we represent are pushed out of school, fail to graduate, and are put on a path to incarceration and underemployment. SB 527 will ensure that savings brought about through Prop 47 from reduced incarceration are used effectively and wisely on research-based whole school approaches that help our students stay in school, reduce our juvenile incarceration rates and school removals, and increase achievement and success. SB 527 also complements the local control accountability plan framework by providing schools who apply for this grant program and receive the funding with tools to better reach the school climate and student engagement priority areas. SB 527 is supported by a very broad coalition of organizations throughout the state who helped to pass Proposition 47, who work every day with the young people who will most benefit from this grant program. Thank you. We ask your vote.
Good morning. My name is Ronaldo Laban, a recent high school graduate from San Jose and a former California for Justice board member. an organization that believes in quality education as a base for a thriving community. I'm speaking in the support of SB 527, speaking on the doors we knocked on, the calls we made, and the students that this bill would affect. Students of colors are expected to be incarcerated instead of educated. This is mirrored by the harsh disciplines policies that reinforce the pipeline that pushes students from school to prison. When students are treated like criminals, they feel that it's inevitable that they will become criminals. A more holistic approach to discipline benefits everyone involved. Hostility breeds fear and rebellion. It is important to show students that meaningful change comes not from punishment, but getting to the roots of why this infraction happened in the first place. School-wide positive behavior, interventions, and supports restorative justice, and community schools foster a positive school culture. Additionally, these strategies would encourage higher attendance, higher graduation rates, and lower truancy rates. We must not settle for the old mistakes, but to take the chance to make a positive change.
Good morning. My name is Michael Davis. I'm a senior at Manual Arts High School in South Central Los Angeles and a youth organizer with Community Rights Campaign. As a young person raised in South LA, I understand what it means to live in a community and attend a school that struggles to have the resources actually needed to support students in achieving their educational potential. The struggles that students face on a daily basis in a community like South Central LA are at times overwhelming. When we come to school, we bring the stress of our life experiences with us. We bring the struggle of our family to make ends meet, the pain of family separation from foster care or incarceration, and the frustration of inadequate public resources. That creates barriers for students like me. For example, not being able to afford transportation to school and having the constant reminder that police and criminalization are a response to these real-life struggles, as opposed to investing in the restoration of my community. Often it feels that counselors in my community have been replaced with tickets, fines, and arrests. What's happening in Baltimore reflects the realities of my community. We can be the first to respond to President Obama's call to invest in communities. As a solution, we need real accountability for police actions in communities of color and funding on the front end in our communities and schools. The good news is that we are seeing positive changes at my school. I'm proud to say that myself and other students fought with the Community Rights Campaign for a change like LAUSD's School Climate Bill of Rights and school police policy that sends students to a guidance counselor instead of sending them to get a ticket, court appearance, and fine. The unfortunate reality is that many of these community victories aren't felt by students at Manual Arts and other schools in the poorest neighborhoods in the state because we are not fully funding the changes that we know work. Programs like restorative justice, school-wide positive behavior intervention and support, and school community approaches. I'm here because I believe that we should fully fund the changes that will transform California from being #1 in prison and correctional spending and #49 in educational spending, so that we can build an education system that is stable and nurturing for youth like me and make a real investment in our potential to be leaders, thinkers, and creators of a just and strong society. SB 527 is critical because it focuses on the preventional strategies that work to support students and communities. With the Community Rights Campaign and other organizations, I helped pass Proposition 47 because I know that if we move away from criminalization and make the investment in students and educators that SB 27 promises, that we will help move to restore schools by funding a transformation in school climate that has already begun taking place, from one that's punitive to one that embraces all students and brings them to graduation, even in high poverty schools and communities.
Thank you very much. Are there others in support?
Elmo Gomez with the Labor Community Strategy Center. I'm a youth organizer, and I support this bill.
I'm Viviana Martin Del Campo. I attend Venice High School with the Community Rights Campaign and Taking Action in Mar Vista Gardens, and I support this bill.
Zoe Rawson, a legal advocate with the Labor Community Strategy Center's Community Rights Campaign. I strongly support this bill.
Kisasi Brooks with Policy Link and the Alliance for Boys and Men of Color, and I'm in strong support of this bill, and we have to educate and not incarcerate our youth.
Raji Prasad from the National Association of Social Workers, California chapter, representing over 10,000 social workers in the state, and we also support this.
Igdalia Rojas, organizing director with Californians for Justice. We work with more than 500 students across the state, and we support this bill.
Isabella Lamar, student at De Anza College and former board member of Californians for Justice, speaking in support.
My name is Risa Rojas. I'm a freshman at Oberfell, and I'm in support of this bill because I want to see a stronger positive school culture with a higher attendance rate and lower truancy rates, and most importantly, higher graduation rates because we are the future of the state.
Andres Rincon here, freshman at William C. Oberfeld and member of Californians for Justice. I'm strongly in support of this plan, mainly because it'll help children to finally see their future, and there won't be any obstacles in their way. They'll finally achieve what they want to achieve so strongly and worked hard for.
Good morning, Deborah Brown with Children Now in support.
Khadija Alam Javed with the Advancement Project in support.
Ron Rapp from CFT, speaking in support.
Catherine Williams with the ACLU of California in support.
Rosa Akil with Pico, California in strong support.
Thank you. Others in support? Are there speakers in opposition to the bill? Seeing and hearing none, are there questions or comments from the members of the committee, or is the bill has been moved? Senator Monning.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just a comment to thank the author and particularly to acknowledge the testimony of the students today. You give us cause for hope. Hopefully we can reciprocate at our end here. Thank you.
Thank you. I would like to echo Senator Monning's comments and thank Senator Liu, too, because the promise of Proposition 47 is that we will be able to reinvest savings from incarceration into the future of our young people and keep them in school. And I chair the Public Safety Committee as well as sitting on this committee. And I just wanted to say to the students that yesterday a young person testifying before our committee made the comment that the best anti-crime strategy, the best public safety strategy, is 1,000 success stories in every neighborhood. And I think that's true. I think this bill will set a framework for getting us there, and you are examples of that. So thank you so much for what you've achieved and for coming and telling us about it. I think would you like to close, Senator Liu?
Just briefly, I do want to thank the students. I mean, this is what we're all about, and appreciate the work that they do and coming forward to express their needs and desires and hopes. And so it's what we can do to try to fulfill them. So thank you very much, and I ask for your support on the bill.
Please read the roll. Motion is due pass.
Due pass to appropriations. Liu?
Aye.
Liu, aye. Runner? Block? Block, aye. Hancock?
Aye.
Hancock, aye. Leyva? Mendoza? Monning? Monning, aye. Pan? Vidak? That's 4-0.
Okay. We will hold the roll open for the absent members.
Thank you. And committee members, I have one bill left. It's SB 567. It's a simple bill that would guarantee eligibility to families enrolled in subsidized care for the remainder of the program year, ensuring that families can make long-term plans for economic prosperity and that children receive the care necessary to thrive. The recently reauthorized Federal Child Care and Development Block Grant requires a minimum of 12 months eligibility for children participating in subsidized programs. Further, the federal legislation stipulates that a child should not be removed from care during the period due to the redetermination as long as the family's income does not exceed 85% of the state's median income. California already certifies families for 12 months of care. However, we also require families to report changes in income and work status that can result in the termination of care long before the family reaches the 85% threshold. SB 567 is a step in the right direction. It would help the state move toward compliance with the new federal regulations, and I'm committed to continue to work with the committee on this important topic, and I respectfully ask for your support on this bill.
Witnesses in support?
Leilani Aguinaldo Yee on behalf of the Los Angeles Unified School District. LAUSD recently found itself in a position where we had a child who was eligible for subsidized child care because he was a foster child. and a few months into the year, he was adopted. But because his adoptive mother's income was slightly above the threshold, we were put in the position of having to terminate care. So we definitely see examples like this at LAUSD, and it's these types of examples that we believe destabilize families and interrupt the continuity of care for children, which is one of the most important aspects of effective learning, effective early learning and childcare programs. So we very much support this bill and urge an aye vote. Thank you.
My name is Raji Prasad. I'm from the National Association of Social Workers California, and we support this.
Thank you.
Erin Gable on behalf of First 5 California, and while the Commission does not yet have a formal position on the bill, very appreciative of the author's intent to look at conformity with the federal law and, more importantly, to establish a state policy on this important evidence-based policy around continuity of care for our vulnerable children. Thank you.
Good morning again. Khadija Alam Javed with the Advancement Project. Apologies for getting our letter of support in late, but you have it in front of you. For the reasons stated in the letter, we are in support. Thank you.
Thank you. Others in support? Speakers in opposition? Seeing and hearing none. Questions or comments, or is there a motion on the bill? The bill has been moved by Senator Block. Good bill, common sense. Would you like to close, Senator Liu?
Make it brief. Just hope that you can support the bill. Thank you.
Do pass to appropriations. Liu?
Aye.
Liu, aye. Runner? Block? Block, aye. Hancock?
Aye.
Hancock, aye. Leyva? Mendoza? Monning? Monning, aye. Pan? Vidak? 4-0.
That bill is on call.
But I thought it needed more clarification. I think Mark doing that.